So in this video I'm going to be going through how to factorise a quadratic equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So before I start, I have to admit that this is not the quickest way of factorising these types of equations. There is a method of doing it by inspection where you can look at a quadratic equation and within a matter of seconds you can write down what goes in each of the brackets. However, I found that this method will always work based on one type of methodology. So the more you practice, the quicker you'll become, and some of you may find that this method is your preferred choice. So if we get started then, so the first thing you want to do is what I call is to find the magic number. Now how we find the magic number is that we multiply out the coefficient of x squared by the constant. So in this case the number underlined by blue multiplied by the number in green. So here we've got our magic number in this case is going to be positive 4. So what you want to think of is then find two numbers that multiply together to give you this magic number, which in this case is 4, but added together will give us our coefficient of x, which in this case is positive 5. Now the sign is really important for both these two things, so always take extra care. That should be a plus 4 when you are working these out. So the two numbers that multiply together give us 4, added together gives us 5. Try and always think of these two because there are an infinite number of combinations we could have for this. So in this case our two numbers are going to be positive 4 and positive 1. Now what we do here is with those numbers is, if we return back to our equation, is we're going to rewrite the equation, but here what we're going to do is we're going to replace our coefficient of x with these two numbers. So what I'm going to have is rather than writing 5x, I'm going to write 4x plus 1x plus 2. Now the reason why I've written 4x and 1x in that order, in theory it doesn't really make a difference, but sometimes if you listen to what the next stage is going to be, you might find why we've done it in this order. So the next step we then need to do is what we call factorise the pairs. So if I factorise these two things here, so what goes into both 2x squared and 4x, well that would be 2x. And then what I'm going to do is factorise these two terms. So I'm going to have x plus 2. I'm then going to repeat the process of what goes into to factorise these two. So what goes into 1x and 2. So a common factor there is positive 1. And factorise that. And we go from there. Now what you should notice if you have done this step correctly is that both brackets should now be exactly the same. So from that, all I then need to do is write down what the common factor between these two terms are. So I've got x plus 2, which is a common bracket, and then what goes in the second bracket is what we are multiplying the x plus 2 by. So in this case we've got 2x, and then in this one we've got plus 1, giving our final answer of 2x plus 1 and x plus 2. So if we just repeat the process with regards to the next question, so here we are factorising 3x squared plus 2x minus 5. So if I just return to the pen, so in this case our magic number is going to be negative 15. So again what we're looking for is two numbers that multiply together to give me minus 15, added together to give me the coefficient of x, which in this case is positive 2, in which our two numbers are going to be minus 5, plus 5 and minus 3. So we've got 5 and minus 3. So going back to our question, what we're going to do here is we're going to replace that 2x with these two numbers. So again, thinking about this, it doesn't really make a difference, but as the 3 will go nicely with the 3x squared and the 5 will go nicely with the 5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this as 3x squared minus 3x plus 5x minus 5. As I said, it doesn't really make a difference, but it just makes it a little bit easier, a bit more easier to understand that you've done it right. So factorising the pairs, which is the next stage we've got to do. So here we've got 3x, in which I've got 3x minus 1, plus common factor between those two is 5. So I've got 5x minus 1. And as you can see, I'm on the right track because my two brackets are the same. So here I've got 3x plus 5, and I've got x minus 1. And again, where that's come from. The 3x is come from what's outside that bracket, and the positive 5 is from what's on the outside of that bracket. So there is my final answer. So moving on to another example. So here we're going to factorise 2x squared minus 17x plus 21. So looking at this, our magic number is going to be, in this case, 2 times 21, which is positive 42. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to give me 42, added together to give me minus 17. So looking through this, we've got, using quick maths, we should have minus 14 and minus 3. So minus 14 and minus 3. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to swap the 17x with, so what goes better, 14 or the 3? Well, I think the 14 does, so I'm going to write 14x minus 3x plus 21. Then factorising the pairs, what goes into those two? 2x, so I've got x minus 7 minus, now here again just be careful with the signs, that's the key thing to remember here. So I've got minus what goes into 3x and 21, that will be 3. So I've got x, and then here we need plus 21, so what do I need to multiply minus 3 to get positive 21? That would be minus 7. So as you can see, both brackets are the same, giving us our factorisation of 2x minus 3 and x minus 7. So moving on to our last example, what we should have here. So here my magic number is going to be, so the magic number is going to be 16 times minus 3, which in this case is minus 48. So again, I'm trying to find two numbers that multiply together to give me minus 48, two numbers that added together to give me the coefficient of x, which in this case is 22. And our two numbers we should have for this are going to be 24 and minus 2. So then returning to this question here, so I've got 16x squared minus, let's go for 2x plus 24x minus 3. Then factorising the pairs, what goes to 16 and 2? That would be a 2x. And then I've got 8x minus 1 plus what goes into there, that would be, sorry, just bear with me. What goes into 24 and minus 3, that would be 3. And I've got 8x minus 1. And then, as you can see, both brackets are the same. So what we've got is we've got 2x plus 3, 8x minus 1. And that's how we factorise quadratic equations or expressions in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is greater than 1. So here are some questions for you to try, and I recommend you pause the tape at this point. And here are the answers. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email. I'd be more than happy to help.